Hey everybody, this is the Tea and Tequila Book Show with Rocky Callan and Sarah Fox. And today we're going to talk about the importance of having a good website when you're an author. Sarah and I were just talking about this in our own casual conversation. We realized we needed to click record because all of you need to know this. The thing about it is that a lot of times authors, editors, people in the writing industry, they don't invest in a website, and then they wonder why they're not taken seriously. And yes, a website, when you get it done by a designer, can be a kind of hefty cost depending on who you go with, but it's worth it.
Oh my gosh,
So
it's so worth it. It's not a negotiable. You
it's
may
not.
think you can cut that corner, but you cannot cut that corner.
Exactly. So we're going to talk about our own investments, our own experiences with a website, and how that has changed our businesses and our just public profile. And then we're going to talk about some essentials for you to consider.
Yes.
So, first off, too, I want to bring this up right away because I fell into this early on. One, you can DIY your website if you know your shit. If you don't know your shit, don't DIY it.
And don't waste your money. Learn from my mistake of getting someone who's not very good. Like, I invested only like $500 on my first website, which you might be all like, that's a lot. It's not for a website. And I had to constantly pay her to like update it. And I wasn't happy with it. And I just ended up going with someone else to totally update it. So go with invest now a lot so you don't spend more later is my number one thing.
And this was the other piece I was going to say. So I was going to say don't DIY it if you don't know your shit too.
So many ways to
Don't go with a designer that doesn't know their shit either or is just not aligned with like your vision.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes a designer's really good, but they have a very specific style and you just don't dig it. Now I, like Sarah, first website, I paid $1,500. And one, I didn't realize the amount of work I was going to have to do to contribute to this package. And then two, I really was not happy with the website itself. And so you want to look at when you pick a designer, you're not just looking at, oh, who's the cheapest, because that's usually what people start thinking, oh, I'll just go with whoever's cheapest. But remember, whenever you pay for something, you're really paying for quality. And so you want to look at their portfolio. You want to ask detailed questions about their package. Are you responsible for providing graphics or inputting copy or anything that might be related, like branding, your logo, anything like that? Ask those questions because every designer has a different package and you never want to go into it assuming something because you know what assuming does. So,
And
that's number thing.
also, you want to make sure they have, like, some people have, like, a week of email support after as you get adjusted to it, or tutorials on how to use Squarespace or WordPress. So make sure there's also a component in which you will be able to handle your website after it's completed in your packages, because I don't think people think of that. They think, ooh, logo or social media, like Facebook cover or stuff like that, but they don't think, how will I be able to maintain this when it's done?
Such a good point because I sure as hell did not think about that.
I didn't either. That's why I got like in trouble with the first one.
And things as simple as, like Sarah was bringing up, you need to update your page. She needed to pay to update her page. I would not have thought of that. And that's just because I was not familiar with the design and website industry and packages, and I didn't ask those questions. So it was on me. It's on me to get educated and familiar with what to expect and not expect and ask the right questions. So that's something when you go into it, what you want to really focus on. Now, I've had a website for as an author and as a businesswoman, as a retreat leader, as an editor, as a book coach. And both really made a huge difference. One, they were websites that actually looked good.
Yes.
They made a huge difference. So with my author website, one thing that you realize is that when you're building up yourself as an author, you need a following. So this is
Hmm.
relevant if you want to go self-publishing or traditional publishing.
Especially, people don't expect it to matter with traditional publishing. Agents will ask you, and publishing houses, what are your followers? You need a platform, especially with like memoirs and stuff, which I know are huge right now. They will ask, and if you want to sell your book with self-publishing, you need people to sell it to.
Exactly. And ways to do that, it's not just around social media following. Now, what happened when I became an author was that Facebook was really this awesome place as a marketing tool that you could market for free. So everybody was on Facebook and people were able to post and it was converting to sales and all of that. But what's happening is that on Facebook, things are less and less visible to your
Hmm.
audience and you have to pay to play. Now, if you have a website, a few things can happen. One is if you're guest posting, if you're doing interviews, if you get a feature done in a newspaper, you want to direct those people somewhere. And if you have a
Hmm.
website, then all of the information around who you are, the books you're writing, even if you're not published yet, you putting up teasers, you doing blog posts about your writing experience, you doing a behind the scenes view of what you're doing on the day to day, all of those things build up your audience. And becomes this digital home for you. And another thing that's really important, if you really want to get serious about it, is you want to have your email list capturing emails on your website. And for writers, I remember when I was a writer, didn't feel like a big deal, and I got in the game pretty late to it, but it made a huge difference when I launched my sequel and my future books, and then when I did promotions, I had this list of people that were just loving on me and my work. And so, of course, when I released the next book or when I did a promotion, they ran to it or they shared for me. And it's very difficult to create that kind of engagement and following when it's just a public profile. So
Hmm.
think of your website as your digital home. You're inviting people into your living room. You're being a wonderful and cozy guest or hostess, offering all of your best, right? You're
Hmm.
not going to invite people over to a shack and say, don't sit there, the roof is leaking and the floor is wet. You're going to say, hey, come into my home, sit on our balcony, let's look at the view. And that's sort of like your website. If your website's janky and not functional, then nobody's going to stick around. But if you make it comfortable, if you make it easy to navigate, and if you make it pretty to look at, people will stay.
It's true. And you also don't want to be, agents look at this stuff and other people, your website, you don't want it to be, for the love of God, do not have the like background with like moving waves or sound. I know it's, don't make it look like it's from 1993 is my major request for people. Like, don't do anything that would be embarrassing. Also, with your content, be aware that people are looking, so you might not get diary entry with your content you're putting on your blog posts and website. Like, it's okay to share your struggles, but do it in a curated sort of way, not like, I hate my life, and everyone be aware of your audience at all times, which is key, is actually your content on your website as well.
Right. There's a big difference between you just writing into cyberspace in some forum and you actually writing for an audience. And I'm a huge person around vulnerability and transparency and openness, but at the same time, I am not just like, nah, just like puking out the words. You
Think,
want
is it helping people?
yeah, if you're going to share your struggle, you want to share what it means for your reader. Everything always comes back to your reader.
Mm-hmm.
Everything from the framework of how does this serve my reader. So if you're having a really shitty day and you can't write and you're struggling, then you can write about that, but you're going to say at the end, but I know it's worth it, or I know I can start again tomorrow, or I feel really uncertain and shaky, but I know that this author dream is something I must do, so I'm going to figure it out. You have to bring it back to how you're moving forward. Or that you're uncertain or that you're afraid, and that every writer goes through that.
Hmm.
So think about your content, think about the readership you're developing, even if they're not reading your book yet, and then plow forward. So it's also super awesome when something really amazing happens. Like, say you get to a #1 spot on Amazon, or you get a literary agent, or you get a book deal, and you've been like nurturing this community for a long time. They celebrate with you, and it's not like you're just in your living room with your cat being like, "Yay!" No judgment, but wouldn't it be more awesome to say, I got an agent? And everybody's like, yeah, and they're like throwing, virtual balloons at you. So think about your website is where your community is really being born and nurtured if you do it properly. And in order to do it properly, you need a design that allows that to happen.
It's true. You need a design that allows it to happen. You have to, like we said before, willing to invest. I spent about almost $3,000 on my designer, and I don't regret it. Like, I got my logo, which has been on my business cards. I've made bookmarks. It's part of, like, my social media presence. Like, it's my banners. I've created book covers with it for my little ebooks. Your colors matter, your palette, patterns my designer made for me, which I've done as backdrops. Like, it's so crucial that it's not going to be, you don't want something that's like $500. I know that sounds like a lot to a lot of people, but you want to really invest in someone. Like, I knew her, I trusted her work, she does beautiful things. I looked at her portfolio, I talked to her, and I don't regret it for a minute. It was one of the best investments I made because I can point people to my site, and I'm not embarrassed by it. Like, I'm actually proud of it. People compliment me on my site, and I think like, when I'm competing with other editors for clients, I think I win the clients. I have a pretty good record because they see my site. Part of it's my work, of course, but another part of it is they see the site and they take you more seriously. You're more professional. And I think I've gotten good guest blogging spots and podcasts and other feature opportunities because I can send people to my site and they'll take you seriously. And then you can demand also a higher rate for your books, or if you have a service, your services. It just makes you look like a professional. And you want agents to look at that and think, oh, this person's worth my time.
Absolutely. And you touched on something there, Sarah, and it's your author branding.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times we don't talk about this as authors. We talk about the work we're doing, the writing we're doing, but author branding, when you go into a bookstore or when you go into a place with professional writers, they have branding, they have a logo, they have a color palette. A lot of times they have fonts that carry through all of their book. If you think of Brenna Jovenhoff, I think that's how you say her last name, all of her books, they're all standalones, but they're all dark and moody, and they all have the same font title and interior. That's something that's followed through her entire writing career. When you look at different books, every series has its own feel, and sometimes even book series have their own website because it's so important to carry through that branding. So Cressley Cole's The Arcana Chronicles has its own website, and it feels like you're actually like in the world. And there are so many authors that they just put up a website and they think that that's going to attract the right people. If your books are like suspenseful thrillers and your website feels like rainbows and unicorns, and you're not going to attract the right readers. The people are going to get pissed off. Your website, your branding need to reflect the kind of writing. It doesn't mean that you can't write lots of different things, but you want it to be at least focus on the vibe that you put out. So maybe you write really scary shit, but you're hilarious. Or maybe you write really romantic things, but it's very deep. You want to look at your books, the kind of writer you are, the kind of style you have, and it all comes out in the website. And most people don't know how to do that. Most people will just play at doing that. But if you get the right designer, they'll allow your literary voice to emerge in the visuals, and that's when real magic happens.
Yeah, Sarah Dess is also someone really good with that. Like, her book covers all look similar. Like, it has a certain kind of image. The way the image is on the book, I think it's the same font. She's really good at that. And similar like color palette, I think saying anything's kind of an exception. Most of it seems very pastel. But also make sure you're not ripping off other people. Like, don't do, in the business world, the Marie Forleo syndrome, where people are like, I want to be like Marie Forleo, but the literary equivalent, like, don't be like, I want my site to look like Harry Potter. Make sure it's your own voice. Like, don't try to rip off other people. Find out who you are. Because you don't want to be like a lesser version of someone else. You want to be who you are and distinct to your vision. And people will like you and remember you more if you are unique and distinct and standing in who you genuinely are. So beware of that.
Exactly. And if you find a designer that knows her shiznit, then that will emerge. That will happen. She will ask the right questions. Mm-hmm. She will dig into who you are and what you want, and she'll help you tease it out and get the website that attracts to you the readers or the clients or whoever you want, publications, and it's worth it. So I've seen websites, good websites, basic around the 2,000 range, and of course there's less and more depending on who you go with, all the way up to $20,000.
Yeah, it's usually actually more 5 to 20. Like 5 is like pretty low.
5 is pretty average.
Yeah, like average, I think that's pretty much what people do.
And so just know that there is a huge range. Like everything in any industry, there is a huge ass range. And so you can find within the range something that's perfectly suited to you, but just make sure you do the research to see that that designer is actually perfectly suited to you and knows what they're doing, so that way it can be the best website you could possibly have.
It's true. You have to and be prepared to answer a lot of questions and be on Pinterest doing boards. So be aware that there's going to be a lot of upfront work, and make sure your copy is together, which is the writing for your website, which you'll have an about page, a blog, a page about your books or your writing. I think that's in a contact form. Be sure to have that. And a homepage if you want. That's kind of more optional. But basically, yeah, but be ready to have your copy ready too. Like, write out what you want to have and have it ready for the designer, because the designer will not do that for you. Some people think that. I have designer friends who tell me, oh, people expect me to write their website for you. No, you have to have that ready and know where you want things placed roughly on your website.
Right. So get ready to do a lot of prep work and play. It can be so much fun, and investigate and research and explore. And if you do that, then you'll find who you're looking for.
You'll have a great match. Anything else you want to say, Rocky, before we head
I think that's all that we need to say for now. If you have questions, or if you have a website, or if you have a Pinterest board, share it in the comments, and then everybody can love on everybody else.
Okay, everyone, have a great day.